Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with your 2025 WWE Crown Jewel instant analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are here to break down everything that happened on WWE's penultimate premium live event of 2025. Crown Jewel, emanating live from Perth, Australia. Despite the early morning start here in the United States, the Silver King was only one match behind live by the time he got a chance to start Crown Jewel, which allows us to bring you this instant analysis, well, relatively instantly, especially compared to some of the other early shows that we've had to suffer through over the prior years. We have an absolute ton to discuss on this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. So we're not going to waste any time off the top. Allow the Silver King to remind you that Getting Over
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King, Vintage Chris Vanini, and the Getting Over Wrestling podcast in totality. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, do not forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments that we will read live on the air. And by the way, for WWE Crown Jewel, feel free to send those in, Jerome's. We will discuss them on our WWE Crown Jewel second look, along with our full breakdown of the week in WWE this coming Tuesday on the podcast. But you can send in all your questions and comments, and on Twitter specifically, you can vote in pre- and post-show polls surrounding premium live events like this, and we will factor in your grades to our final grade at the end of this program. Also, at Getting Overcast on YouTube, you get full-length audio episodes, full-length video interviews. We have a big one lined up for later this month and a couple more irons in the fire for the end of 2025. So make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. Now, you can tell the Silver King by his voice, still a bit under the weather. I'm working through, I hope, the final 48 hours of this head cold, coming off my 2-week trip from New York. So not only am I not cracking open a cold one because I'm doing the show solo, it's a college football Saturday. Vintage Chris Vanini is on site at a game. He's not able to share his thoughts. He will do that on Tuesday. That's why we're doing a WWE Crown Jewel second look. But not only am I unable to drink, I also really shouldn't because I'm still on some type of medicine for this head cold. So we're going to go without cracking open a cold one on today's show, but hopefully we will bring that back for some of these Saturday night's main event because they're pretty much premium live events these days, plus WWE Survivor Series War Games still to come in the month of November. So let's just get right into it and break down everything that happened, the 2025 edition of WWE Crown Jewel in Perth, Australia, instant analysis style. The show opened with this whole gimmick video called The Royal Transfer that saw the Crown Jewel Championships loaded from Saudi Arabia into WWE private jets and then flown to Perth, Australia. Because you'll remember, the only prior time that this was held with the championships and the rings and the whole deal, it was supposed to be an annual event in Saudi Arabia with the gaudy belts being kept at whatever they call that facility, WWE World, whatever, only brought out each year for Crown Jewel itself. They obviously had to change that because they decided to give Royal Rumble over to the Saudis. Therefore, this Crown Jewel show was held in Australia. The Perth shows this week, starting with SmackDown on Friday, obviously going into Raw on Monday. They actually had a unique set with trusses built upward in front of the Titantron to kind of do the outline of a jewel. It was a step in the right direction when it came to premium live event sets. I was watching on Netflix, so I did not see this, but apparently the Star Spangled Banner was played before the show and it got booed by the Aussies. First of all, fair enough. Second, I saw consternation online. Oh, why would WWE play the American national anthem in another country? Why wouldn't they? This is common. Not only has WWE done this forever, the NFL plays it before its football games, whether it's in Germany or London or Paris or wherever they hold those games. This is what American sports do. The NBA does it too, ahead of their games overseas. It has nothing to do with anything else. Do you not like it? Should they not do it? Maybe not. It's okay not to like it if you don't and you're international. It's cool. But they do it, and they've always done it. So I don't know why you're getting up in arms about it this time on Saturday, October 11th. That doesn't really make any sense. So let's go ahead, break down all 5 matches on the card. We normally integrate anything that happened during the go-home SmackDown from Friday into this breakdown, but it was extremely limited. So really, we are focusing almost entirely on Crown Jewel itself. And I really didn't know where to start the show. It was a difficult decision because obviously the main event was massive with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, but there was also a match involving a member of the Vision that preceded that. But really the biggest match on this entire show, the match everyone is talking about coming out of Crown Jewel, is John Cena versus AJ Styles. And that is where we're going to start this show. During the Crown Jewel kickoff, Styles confirmed that he will indeed retire at some point in 2026. He did not get more specific than that. What was crazy was seeing the RAC Center, Rack Center, whatever they call it, the venue that housed Crown Jewel along with SmackDown and Raw. Upon the start of the show, 70% plus of the audience was wearing the yellow Cena shirts made for Australia. I'm not sure how many tickets were sold specifically, but I know the setup was for 15,500. So let's say 15,000 people were in this arena. 70% of them bought and wore the shirts live. Let's say another 10% bought them but didn't wear them, kept them in their bags, and or were underestimating when we say 70%. And let's say those shirts are $50 American. That's $600,000 in only John Cena t-shirt revenue from this one show. And those numbers might actually be underestimating it, all things considered. That is absolute insanity, but it also made for an incredible visual during the entire program, but especially the Cena Styles match. This was the mid-show main event with no video package going into it. Now, I watch on Netflix with a VPN, or at least I did for this show because I was starting late. I wanted to get into everything as fast as possible. I understand a lot of commercials aired on the ESPN broadcast. I got a couple, but really not that many on the Netflix feed. But there was no video package for this match, regardless of where you watch. Now, maybe it aired on the pre-show, but WWE not putting packages ahead of every match on PLEs now, it's kind of ridiculous, especially this one when you consider the history between these two guys and the fact that there was no build for the match. So if there's no build, then at least give us that through production, similar to what they did for Cena and Lesnar. But they didn't even do that here, which just kind of boggled my mind. As great as this match was, spoiler alert, it was great. It's one thing not to have any build, but then to also not have that high-level production of a match video coming into it. I just didn't understand it. They had such a deep, extensive rivalry. Why would you not want to cover all of that? Anyway, Styles looked great coming out in his throwback TNA blue and white shorts without gloves, mind you. Cena got an incredible ovation to the point he put his arm around Stu and did the camera work with him, showing all the fans going nuts, a whole panoramic of the entire arena. He got loud chants before and after his announce, but Cena had a surprise. He handed an additional piece of paper to Alicia Taylor, who read a bonus announce for Styles, quote, "The definition of total nonstop action, the ace and undisputed boss of the Bullet Club." And when she said that, Styles was literally shocked. Like, he goes, holy shit, off mic. Like, I can't believe they said Bullet Club on WWE television. And then he got his regular epithets as well. This was quite a moment. He got a loud holy shit chant from the crowd at the bell. Definitely felt like we were seeing something special and historic between these guys, and that was before they even locked up. Cena went through 5 moves of doom, hit an attitude adjustment early for a false finish. Michael Cole actually called a Yushi-Goroshi from Styles and shouted out Moro Ronaldo for the pronunciation, which I loved. Cena caught him with skull-crushing finale as a Miz homage, but Styles pulled him off the ropes for a torture rack bomb, and Scorpion death drop for a Sting homage. Cena countered Styles' clash into an STF, which was countered back into a crossface, possibly an Edge and or Daniel Bryan homage. I wasn't positive about that. Countered again by Cena into an Accolade, a Rusev homage. Countered by Styles into a Coquina clutch, Samoa Joe homage, which got a very light Joe chant. After a roll through, Cena countered into Walls of Jericho, which got a Y2J chant. AJ rolled that into a calf crusher, which Cena countered back into an STF. Styles escaped, pushed Cena off the ropes for a Styles Clash false finish and a Fight Forever chant. Cena caught phenomenal forearm cold, countering into Sister Abigail, kiss and all, for a false finish. Flawless execution on the move. Even repeating it now, I kind of lost it here, right? As did the crowd and everyone else immediately. Breaking out the fireflies, singing, he's got the whole world in his hands. What a moment that was. Excuse me. Styles came back with Angel's Wings, a Christopher Daniels homage. Cena appeared to be setting up for a pedigree, only for Styles to counter with Fade to Black. Deadeye, same move. This was a Frankie Kazarian homage. Cena came back with the draping DDT, slithered back for an RKO and a false finish. The crowd chanted for it, got it, and lost its shit. Cena then went for the punt kick, but Styles avoided, countering into attitude adjustment for a false finish. Styles tried a 5-knuckle shuffle, but Cena grabbed him by the throat for a chokeslam, an Undertaker homage just like Taker used to do to Cena. Fans then chanted 619, so they actually tried to oblige live in the moment with a trip into the ropes. Styles interrupted it with a lariat and got booed because they didn't do it, but that was completely improvisational. There's no way that was planned. Styles hit a springboard 450 but couldn't cover, so he tuned up the band for Sweet Chin Music, a Shawn Michaels homage. He followed with a phenomenal forearm for a false finish. Fans started chanting yes, but that wasn't going to happen. And again, I kind of think they already honored Daniel Bryan. Cena landed another AA fighting off a Styles escape attempt for another false finish. Styles prevented an avalanche AA, but Cena caught a flying crossbody rolling through, hoisting him in the air into a tombstone pile driver, pulling Styles up for an AA and the 1-2-3. They hugged, raised one another's arms, and then Styles left first. That way Cena could get the massive ovation. What even can one say about this? It felt like we were watching a double retirement match. I don't want to be critical at all, but if I could have made one addition, it would have been some throwbacks to their prior matches, the callbacks, really. But the homages, not just the fact that they were done, but the level to which they were executed and the sense they made in the match story. It was just a special match featuring two special wrestlers in front of a special crowd that was appropriate for this particular meeting. We previously talked about how Cena Styles should have happened earlier with more build in a different venue, maybe even in the United States, and that was a completely fair argument at the time. That said, Australia has long been a real successful international country for TNA. It used to air the TNA shows publicly on the Fox station every single week when the brand was at its height and when Styles was on top. So putting this match in that country retrospectively, it made a lot of sense to maximize the crowd reaction if you were going to do it the way they did it with all of these homages. Cena being able to execute and tease around 10 of them was beautiful. Styles being allowed to do a handful of his own for TNA people and even some current AEW guys, that was such a pleasant surprise. I'd assume the 619 is being saved for a Dominic Mysterio match, like actually executing that move. Just like their classic at the Royal Rumble, Cena and Styles, they never left the ring. The Sister Abigail was the moment of the entire match, and frankly, I'm probably going to nominate it for Moment of the Year, even if it doesn't win. But that really hit me emotionally. The question is how you technically evaluate a fan service finisher spot fest tribute match. I'm of the belief, I've said this before, you can have extremely different 5-star matches. For example, Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, and Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. Both of those were 5 stars plus for me, but they were completely different. One was a technical masterpiece. Another was a storytelling masterpiece. I do not know how Cena can wrestle a better, more fitting retirement match than this one over his 4 remaining dates. Combining this with what he did at SummerSlam with Cody, the closing salvo of his retirement, it has been far more successful than the start to this year. This felt historic. Like we got to watch an actual professional wrestling moment transpire in front of us. It was even the perfect finish because with Cena hitting a tombstone before the AA, he was calling back to Styles being Taker's final WrestleMania opponent. Perhaps just as important, when it comes to grading a match, This was flawless bell to bell. There was nothing wrong with it. It was perfect. Like I said, they never left the ring. They had a really strong submission sequence. There were multiple false finishes that you could actually buy. And I believe for many people listening to this show, this will wind up being their match of the year for 2025. 5 stars, A+. Now, before we get to the next match, the Silver King does need to remind you that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. We're a free show. We're an ad-free show. This is how you can financially support us, and we would greatly appreciate it if you do. Now we're going to move into the remainder of the card, and we're not necessarily going to go in the order you expect, because there was one match that fed into another, and really the least important match, frankly, on the entire show was the Women's Crown Jewel, which is kind of unfortunate, but that's just facts. So we're actually going to move next here to Roman Reigns against Bronson Reed in an Australian street fight. This appropriately opened the show. They fought into the crowd early, didn't really do that much. Reigns tried to throw 2 rugby balls at Heyman and Reed. He missed both of them. Still kind of funny. But he did beat Reed with a cricket bat and a kendo stick. These Aussie ingrates cheered him doing it when they should have been rooting for Bronson. Reigns then grabbed the mic and said to acknowledge him if fans wanted tables, which got a big pop. Kind of took me out of the moment. I don't love stuff like that, but I guess the live crowd did because it acknowledged him, and they otherwise wouldn't have had a chance to do that. So who am I to say? That gave Reed an opening to start kicking ass with the chair until Reigns picked him up for a Samoan drop into the open chair, which completely flattened it into itself. Reigns bludgeoned Reed with 10 lariats on the ropes, but Reed caught and countered Superman punch into a jagged edge. Reed followed with a stop sign shot, but Reigns hit a Superman punch. Then he started running around the ring, planning to spear Reed through the barricade, only for Braun Breaker to appear, leap off the barricade, and spear Reigns. I thought it would have been more successful if he leaped off the barricade into a spear, but he leaped down to the ground and then ran at him for a spear. I just thought that could have been done a little bit better. Then Roman took the Shield powerbomb through the announce table. As the heel set up another table, the Usos came out to Jay's music, hitting Breaker with 1D, only for Reed to prevent an Uso splash. That led to Jay taking a drop gutbuster and Jimmy taking a runaround spear through the barricade, getting eliminated by Reed. Roman saved Jay from a tsunami, hitting Superman punch, but he got distracted from a spear by Breaker, who took a Superman punch himself. Reed lifted Reigns for jagged edge through a table, but when Roman got off his shoulders, Jay speared him through the table, meaning to take out Reed, but instead taking out his cousin. Ironically, it may have been Jay's single best spear to date. Brutal landing, too, on the table, crumpling upon Roman's head. Breaker followed with the spear of Jay. He dragged Reigns to the corner, hit Tsunami, and got the win over Roman Reigns.
But I want you to know this. I prayed for this and it happened.
Oh! Yes! I love that!
Look, I may not have loved the entire match, but I loved the booking decision and the way Cole sold it as Reed being the only man other than Cody to pin Roman one-on-one in years. Reigns is 4-3 in singles, triple threat, and tag team matches since dropping the title at WrestleMania 40, 4-4, obviously including that loss to Cody. For a guy his stature, that's significant, yet Reed is the only one with a singles win over him. Regardless of the way it transpired, it is now a feather in his cap that he can crow about and use to build his profile, and not just the short term, but the long term. As we said on the Ultimate Preview, this helped Reed far more than it hurt Reigns, and I'm so glad WWE pulled the trigger. We wanted this to happen. We didn't predict it would, because you can never predict that WWE is going to beat Reigns or Rhodes in any individual given match, but they frickin' did. Even the crowd was surprised. And when you can give a home crowd a shock like that, it's usually a win. It also allowed me to use a stat I have been saving since Clash in Paris. Bronson Reed is now the only wrestler in history with one-on-one pinfall victories over Roman Reigns and Kazuchika Okada. That's absolutely insane and quite an accomplishment for him. You'll also remember, Reed got pulled off the Elimination Chamber Perth card. He was supposed to fight Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. But because Seth was injured, they never ran that match. He didn't even get on the card. He stayed home. His wife ended up giving birth. It worked out. But, I mean, this is like a huge moment for Bronson. So for him to not only be on the show against Roman, but beat him in his home country,
This is such good shit.
loved that for him. Given the street fight rules, the involvement of Breakker and the Usos, it was obvious to see that coming. If you really think about it, the Faces had a 3-on-2 advantage, but still lost. But they were just never at full strength. They never had fully the 3-on-2. The match itself was mediocre, extremely plain as a street fight. Nothing memorable about it. The stipulation did not deliver, as we said. Overall, I'll give it like 3.25 stars and a B. That's a shame because if given the opportunity, these guys could have gone out and put on an absolute banger. It just really wasn't the point of the match, which was really done for storytelling. Plus, Roman losing a clean banger is much more difficult to stomach and sell than dropping about in this manner. The original Breakker interference here was great, and the storytelling around the bloodline failing, that extended after the bell. Reigns was angry at the Usos for getting involved because the world has come to believe he can't win shit on his own, and the whole concept behind the bloodline dominating, it only works if they actually win. Reigns said he loved both of them, but he didn't want to see them until Christmas, which was probably some of the most believable family dynamics they've used with these guys. Reigns then ranted, "I'm tired of this shit," as he walked back on his own. The Usos were left frustrated in the ring. Jay said Roman is always selfish. Jay walked out next, similarly frustrated, saying Roman is always going to be Roman. But it did not really come across as if either of them blamed Jimmy, which would have been silly because Jimmy didn't do anything wrong. I'm not sure if it was purposeful or a mistake that Reigns said Christmas instead of Thanksgiving, considering I cannot imagine he misses Survivor Series War Games, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving and less than 50 days away. If you're running the Vision in a War Games match, you got to assume that Reigns would be on the opposite side. Though I guess they could do 5 without him, Punk, Knight, the Usos, and Cody, but then you're not putting either world title on the line at Survivor Series War Games. So we'll see how all of this actually transpires, but the storytelling was on point here. Breakker later backstage put Reed over for his win, as did Paul Heyman, who expressed pride in the accomplishment. Heyman said they will not help Seth Rollins no matter what happens in the match. Breakker wondered after Heyman left, what happens if Rollins loses, to which Heyman came back in, saying they already know that answer. So that brings us to the champion versus champion match. Cody Rhodes, the WWE champion, against Seth Rollins, the World Heavyweight Champion, for the Crown Jewel Championship. And I believe I just said champion, 6 times there? Yeah, that's the gimmick. Rollins remained catatonic, looking at his WrestleMania 40 Rolex watch, to the point that he was present but did not participate during the Crown Jewel kickoff. Cody opened the Go Home SmackDown receiving Scream-style chants, explaining that he didn't initially buy into the stakes that Seth claimed for their match, but he realized how much Rollins loves WWE and believes that plus his ego has warped his thinking. Rhodes said he loves the QB1 nickname, but it's one he shares with anyone who steps up on any given night, be it Randy Orton, Reigns, Rhea Ripley, Jay, CM Punk, even Rollins himself. Cody then got Wade Barrett to say on mic what the crowd was chanting, which was "he's a wanker," regarding Rollins, major pop. Then Barrett threw the mic back to Cody. He actually came short of the top rope, but Cody caught it cold. Very similar to that Roman mic catch from Brock Lesnar a few years ago when he was standing on top of the tractor. Anyway, Cody closed the segment by saying, if the world truly revolves around Rollins, as Seth claims, then Rhodes' place in that world has got to be the best wrestler ever because he's 3-0 against him and he's completely unbeatable. Now, beyond Cody's ability to get the crowd ablaze as the opening superstar they saw for the weekend, this promo was fantastic. His best in a long time. The storytelling was completely on point, sharing the QB1 moniker. That was real babyface stuff. Getting Wade involved improvisationally was brilliant. And then the close cementing his side as the stakes of the match kind of grew. That was exactly what he needed to do. All in all, a super hot open to the show for SmackDown that set the stage for 3 days of WWE action. And of course, the main event for Crown Jewel itself. Tremendous video package leading into the main event, at least. Rollins looked great with gear that referenced all 3 of his prior losses to Rhodes, including polka dots on top, of course, for Dusty, the Hell in a Cell match. He wore and removed the gifted Rolex before the bell, getting consistent wanker chants in the early part of the match as he struggled to find any momentum against Rhodes. Rollins took out his frustrations on Cole, even grabbing him by the lapels of his suit. Cody saved him. that was enough to give Seth an upper hand. He pushed over the stupid prime table, which got a massive pop, before hitting a double stomp with Rhodes hanging over the barricade. Rollins had a beautiful counter of a disaster kick, chasing him to the ropes and then grabbing Cody's leg midair for a Liger bomb. Great spot. Seth dominated for a while, even doing the Stardust cartwheel taunt and Dusty Rhodes punches. There was a brief CM Punk chant. Cody landed a safely executed vertebreaker that did not get the announce call it deserved. Shout out Shane Helms. He followed with a disaster kick, Dusty's punches, the bionic elbow, a tope suicida, and a Cody cutter. Rollins countered out of Crossroads and then countered another disaster kick attempt with a pedigree. Cody avoided the stomp, but Rollins fully reversed Crossroads for a false finish. Seth missed a Phoenix Splash because he always does. I don't think he's landed a Phoenix Splash in 15 years, but he completely dodged a double jump Cody cutter, with Cody completely eating shit on the landing. Rollins immediately hit a second pedigree and a stomp for a false finish that could have ideally been a bit closer of a kick out to a 3. Rollins looked at the Crown Jewel Championship. He wound up grabbing the Rolex, wrapping it around his fist, but he decided against using it. He just put it down in the corner instead. Cody capitalized with a double jump Cody cutter and Crossroads for a 2.9 false finish, what Rhodes should have given him on the prior pin attempt. Seth put Cody in a tree of woe, and he decided to go across the ring, springing out of the corner for a coast-to-coast flying headbutt. I have never seen that shit before. Flat 2 count. Again, way too early of a kick out by Cody. I'm not sure why. Rollins then caught Rhodes on the top rope for an avalanche Spanish fly, adding a rock bottom, extremely apparent and obvious, not called by commentary, for a better false finish. Such a smart spot. Cody caught Seth on the top rope himself for an avalanche Crossroads. Never seen that shit before either, for a false finish with a great camera wide shot showing the move and the crowd reaction to the arm lift kick out. Rollins countered both Crossroads and a pedigree, crawling into the exact corner where he had placed the Rolex completely incidentally. The referee then accidentally got knocked down, so Rollins just was like, yeah, I got to use it. He punched Rhodes upward with the Rolex while he was in a Crossroads setup. Then he hit a regular stomp with a bit of a clunky roll into an avalanche stomp off the second rope for the 1-2-3 to win the match. Not clean, but decisively. Paul Levesque strapped up Rollins, pointed to him after the bell. Rollins had a great line, something like, "Boss man, you've done this a few times," kind of calling back to the architect and all of that. Squeaky clean victory would have been ideal, but Rollins winning without interference, doing it on his own, cheating just enough like a heel would, that played for me. And it was exactly what we said needed to happen on the Ultimate Preview, like beat for beat almost. I particularly liked how Rollins initially chose not to cheat, but only did so ultimately when he was literally thrown into the corner with his eyes directly put on the Rolex. He didn't go to reach for it. He didn't work himself into the corner. It was basically presented to him as an out, and he was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm a heel. I'm going to take the out. What truly made this match were the unique spots and sequences, rather than rely on callbacks to their first 3 meetings, and there were a couple. The guys freshened it up. The coast-to-coast headbutt, the Spanish fly, the avalanche Crossroads, all of those were awesome. The vertebreaker was used. The one true mistake in the match was going for the cover immediately after the avalanche Crossroads. If you're going to pull that out, and I don't think we've ever seen that before, you save that as an actual finish for a match, ideally to win a title, not a 2+ count in the end of a match like this. Or in this case, if you want to do the move, you either don't cover or you delay the cover because you took such a beating that by the time he kicks out, you say, wow, well, if it wasn't delayed, he wouldn't have kicked out and it would have ended the match. Cody has completely ruined his finisher to the point he probably needs to come up with another one. Seriously. The headbutt was impressive. It was also kind of stupid. Luckily, both of them were okay. I do believe by landing in the air on his shoulder, not directly on the canvas, it made her a lot safer comparatively. And I did love the inventiveness of the entire deal. Plus, it showed Rollins still has real athleticism despite his knee injuries. I was a bit concerned when he was gearing up to take off. I'm like, oh man, you're going to really put the full torque on the knee here. Like, fingers crossed, nothing happens. He leapt fine. He had plenty of space, actually, and it ended up looking great. I'm not entirely sure why. The crowd was hot for this. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't red hot like I would have expected. I presume it's because of Cena Styles that wound up dominating the show, and ultimately there was not actual stakes here, like in terms of something physical like a championship, even though, as we said, the stakes were theoretical, they were metaphorical, but I thought it was an exceptional match bell to bell. The Avalanche Stomp finish was not my favorite, particularly because it scares me when Rollins jumps and plants his legs. But the fact that he did not just win with the Rolex, I thought was very important. For a heel Rollins in 2025, this was as clean as you could possibly get. And the Rolex actually played a storytelling role as opposed to just being a random weapon or, let's say, a piece of jewelry he always carries around. Rollins reminded a lot of folks that he is still among the best wrestlers in the entire world, not just WWE. He may not have the athleticism, especially these days of like a Will Ospreay, but he completely makes up for it with work quality and selling. The man just delivers. And these guys together flashed their immense chemistry. They have now put on 4 awesome matches, 3 of which you could argue are in the A+ tier if they fit your personal taste. Obviously, the Hell in a Cell match is arguably an A+, a 5-star plus match. They probably need to have a title match at WrestleMania or SummerSlam at some point in the future. This one did not meet Hell in a Cell, which remains the best of their rivalry, but it's almost impossible for them to top that. In fact, I don't think they ever could top that match. I'm going into the weekend here at 4.5 stars and an A. I could see moving into the A+ territory, 4.75 on second watch, but there was an intensity from it that I did not feel that it would have needed to get to that 5-star level. Unless I somehow feel differently on rewatch, it's possible. I just don't expect that to be the case. So the floor and my initial grade is 4.5A. On our second look show, I might upgrade it a 1/4 star, but I'm going to have to watch it a second time without my head kind of in my notebook, basically taking notes and preparing the show. Rollins, after the Crown Jewel Championship ceremony, he stole the mic from Kathy Kelly, saying he already knew the question that she was going to ask about getting the monkey off his back. He said it feels better than anyone could ever have imagined. Rollins said he dreamed the impossible dream and had the fortitude to reach that dream. He said he's no longer just the greatest of his generation, but the greatest of all time. Rollins concluded with his visionary revolutionary line, and he stood tall to end the Crown Jewel. It was a bit surprising to me at first. The Vision did not come out alongside Rollins to celebrate, but the post-match deal included pyro. Rollins also stood alongside the women's winner, so that did make sense. I thought, though, they'd bring Rollins up the ramp. The Vision would be waiting for him. They'd celebrate. But considering you have Raw on Monday night in Perth, they can just do a celebration on Raw. In fact, now that I think about it, they'll probably do a whole ceremony, make a big deal about it, so on and so forth. It was a really strong end to the show, all things considered. So let's move to Rhea Ripley and Io Sky against the Kabuki Warriors. These 4 were easily the best part of the Crown Jewel kickoff. Asuka healed it up to a major degree. Kairi was acting almost completely junior to her. Io stood up for herself, got more time to speak than usual, and Rhea was able to play the ultimate babyface, saying how she was looking out for her friend by being real family for her. It just worked, and it was extremely fun. The faces also did a shoey with Grayson Waller and Michael Cole, but Cole disappointingly did not use his shoe. Could they not have gimmicked the shoe off to the side, just brought another shoe and ensured that he was able to do it? This is an entertainment company. Why is he drinking from the can? I thought that was kind of weird. Anyway, let's get to the match. The Ripley entrance was obviously insane. The face side wore gear that represented one another. There was an Australian patch on Io's gear, a Japan flag, and Ripley's boots also had fur on them, which was, representing Io. And they also had matching eye makeup too. It was really cute. Io got major chants fighting with Asuka one-on-one early. She even got an Asuka's a wanker chant. Rhea attempted to enter illegally. That allowed the Warriors to single out and dominate Sky in their corner. Io got a second wind, but Asuka started slapping the shit out of her disrespectfully until she ate a flapjack. Ripley obviously got a thunderous hot tag, wrecking shop. She got taken down with a Kairi Hurricanrana and Asuka Shining Wizard. Rhea came back with a razor's edge on Kairi. Io followed with a massive missile dropkick for a false finish. The Warriors sent Ripley into the steel steps, only for Io to catch them with a springboard moonsault ringside, getting her own soccer-style chance. She landed bullet train attack on Sane along with the moonsault, for a 2.9 broken fall. It looked like the faces had set up for a Doomsday Missile dropkick, tandem finisher, but Asuka interrupted it. Kairi avoided Riptide with Rhea eating a spinning back fist and a huge kick from Asuka, plus the tandem inside elbow for another broken fall. Asuka took a huge springboard missile dropkick from Io, eating snake eyes from Rhea as well. Ripley then dragged her onto the ropes for an avalanche Riptide, but Kairi saved and then tagged herself in, pushing Asuka off the apron for a massive boot to the face. Rhea then hit Riptide and Io tagged in for over the moonsault and the 1-2-3. Interesting that even in Australia, Ripley really played second fiddle to Sky in terms of the match and even allowed Io to get the win. I mean, it's literally Ripley's country and her birthday. Like October 11th is her birthday. And he still didn't give her the pinfall in the match. They hugged tight after the bell. Rhea raised Io's arm even as her own music played. The story for the match was basically that Kairi took multiple bullets for Asuka, which is what she deserves for picking the heel side. It was extremely well wrestled despite being put in a really difficult situation coming after Cena Styles. For that reason, the crowd was not as hype as it should have been, but it still played. I might be slightly high on this, but I was at 4.25 stars in an A. I'm not exactly sure what else they could have done to put on a better tag team match, given the necessary result and the ongoing storytelling between the four of them. Everyone played their parts perfectly. Kairi has completely found herself again in a WWE ring. All that rust and awkwardness has been erased over the last 2 months. She sold her ass off bell to bell, and you know what? Kairi Sane was the MVP of this entire match. Io, meanwhile, I think she has legitimate candidacy as overall wrestler of the year for 2025. I was concerned about this following Cena Styles, and while it did affect the response a little bit, the fact that they got so much time and captivated the crowd to this degree, it just speaks to where WWE women's wrestling has gone in 2025. By the way, I mentioned Io and Kairi, but Ripley and Asuka were both excellent as well, particularly Asuka, who got so much heel heat during this match. That was awesome to see and hear. She worked really hard with a hotter finish and a better ending. This could have gone to another level, but it was still fantastic in its own right for what we got. The crowd was red hot for Ripley on the post show, chanting a million things. You could just feel like a tremendous amount of love in the air going both ways from her to them and from them to her. I'd go so far as to say it's worth watching the post show, even if you don't normally watch them, just for the Ripley part. And finally, we had champion versus champion. Tiffany Stratton, the WWE champion, against Stephanie Vaquer, the WWE Women's World Champion, in a Crown Jewel Championship match. This actually was set up further on SmackDown. Chelsea Green backstage congratulated Vaquer on her championship win, saying she's spicy and has that secret sauce, calling her La Primavera, offering a spot as a slagent. Stratton interrupted and Steph tossed the flyer. The faces agreed to be on the same page for one night only. A fun little segment. Chelsea got on TV. It was positive. So we had Vaquer and Stratton against Julia and Kiana James. Kiana took Devil's Kiss less than 30 seconds into the match. Then Vaquer started off with Julia, but fans were chanting one more time, and we missed most of their sequence, which was really the entire point of the match, to have Julia wrestle Vaquer and Stratton and like level her game up. Stratton got the Hey Bailey style chants, which I took as a personal insult. Julia caught her with Arrivederci and her finisher not called by commentary for what should have been a hot false finish, except it was not recognized by the crowd because she's been booked terribly and they probably don't even know what her finisher is. Vaquer then hit like an Angel's Wings style code breaker, I'd call it. It looked great. And again, it was better than the original SVB. And then Stratton hit the rolling senton and prettiest moonsault ever to get the win. I'd say this match over-delivered to expectation, both in terms of ring time and ring work on the Julia and Kiana side. Vaquer and Stratton both flashed. And I'm feeling positive about Stephanie trying out different finisher variations. It was concerning that she used the backbreaker a couple weeks ago when it looked like that had been phased out and she had transitioned into that Angel's Wings kind of code breaker, and that was being called SVB. So I was pleased that like she got to do that again in this spot. All in all, a pretty strong match for TV. I'm not sure it accomplished anything in terms of getting Julia and Kiana over. Their pairing remains weird. Julia is not getting the reaction she deserves because the crowd has not been given any reason to care about her, even still after this. And of course, there was no actual storyline to the Women's Crown Jewel match. It's just something that happened. Vaquer did get legitimately choked up emotionally when the fans chanted "You deserve it" at her during the Crown Jewel kickoff. It was a super nice moment. Not worth watching the show for, but you can find a clip online, and it was pretty cool. So this Crown Jewel Championship match was second on the show. Started a bit slow until Stratton hit her handspring back elbow and a cartwheel Alabama slam. Perfectly executed for the first time in what felt like a long time. Cole said he had never seen that move before. She's done it in like every match. Vaquer answered with her dragon screw and a Meteora. Stratton came back basically with end of heartache. Vaquer prevented prettiest moonsault ever with a back suplex, but Stratton countered out of Devil's Kiss. Vaquer blocked the Swanton Bomb with double knees, nasty spot, then landed Devil's Kiss with an Eddie Guerrero tribute. The crowd did the Booker T emote, which was awesome. Vaquer then did her old SVB for a false finish. Stratton came back with the rolling senton. Vaquer avoided prettiest moonsault ever. Tiffy ate shit, missing that move, and Stephanie immediately hit Spiral Tap for the win, receiving a standing ovation for her efforts. It was the necessary result, but way too short of a match at 10 minutes. This is a 5-match card. The opener with Roman Reigns only went 21. I say only. We've seen Roman Reigns matches go like 28, 32 minutes. So my thought was, why the hell is this 10 minutes unless the main event is going like an hour? Now, in terms of actual match time, just so everyone understands, John Cena and AJ Styles got 27 minutes. Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes got 30 minutes. And the women's tag team match did get 20. So there were 4 matches on this card that were 20 minutes or longer. This one being 10, when you put that in context, it does make sense. But you look at it and you say, why could this not have gotten 15? Vaquer and Stratton worked extremely well together. Super smooth match, squeaky clean finish. And I just believe both of them deserved more of an opportunity to shine. Commentary also did a real poor job here, not selling the entire build of Stratton being undefeated so far in 2025. That was the only story that they had going into the match, and commentary just like completely forgot about it after the bell. The celebration for Stephanie, including Paul Levesque, strapping her up with the huge belt, handing her the ring, that was incredibly sweet. She started crying when Levesque said something to her during a hug. It seemed to be along the lines of like, thank you for trusting us and doing a great job, being a star, etc. The crowd gave her an extended "You Deserve It" chant during a post-match promo where she said the Crown Jewel Championship was not just a great accomplishment, it's something that proved she can believe in herself as much as the fans believe in her, and that she followed her dreams and finally succeeded. It was super sweet. Not to be a downer, okay, but I do believe sooner than later, they need to move away from the whole "I'm living a dream" gimmick with her. She has quickly achieved 2 major accomplishments already on the main roster. She's won 4 titles since February, 9 months. Clean wins over the prior champion Io Sky and now a current champion in Stratton. She's not a feel-good story anymore. She's a dominant persona and among the best women in this entire division. It is now time for her to operate shoulders back, chest out, confident as champion. I'm giving the match 4 stars A-. I cannot go higher than that with such a brief runtime. 5 more minutes, same level of work at today. 10 to 15 more minutes, same level of work. It might have been something special, but this did hit the expectation. I'm excited to see what they can do one day eventually when they're given the extra time to go out there and put on a legitimate banger that can tear the house down. It does remain odd to me. The WWE sometimes handicaps the ceilings of its shows by not allowing wrestlers to put on the best matches they possibly can or close to the best matches they possibly can every single time, especially when they don't have the same mileage of their bodies anymore. They're not going out there and wrestling 3 house shows, including one the day before. So I just found that odd. Now, on the topic of match time for Vaquer and Stratton, because really that was my only issue on the entire show. I went back to look. All of Stratton's singles matches are short. The only 2 that she's had over 11 minutes were Last Man Standing or Last Woman Standing on SmackDown with Nia Jax. So that included commercials and time outside the ring. And then the WrestleMania 41 match with Charlotte Flair that went 19 minutes. And that was WrestleMania. It makes me believe WWE is not confident that Stratton can go long by herself, which makes me question why she's been champion for 280 days. But I just wanted to get that out there because I did do the research. I had time before we went and did this instant analysis. There was one random moment in the post-show to mention that I did not already. As soon as Levesque came out, fans started chanting "We Want Edge," and they sang Metalingus, which was odd and just didn't really make much sense. They're smart enough to know that's not possible. Levesque also basically said during this that WrestleMania is open to the highest bidder, even if it's Australia. Dude, we know that. You're doing a WrestleMania in 2 years. We know it's open to the highest bidder. Anyway, that wraps up WWE Crown Jewel in terms of the match-by-match breakdown for this instant analysis, and that sends us into our final grade for the show. But before we discuss the final grade, we need to remember what our pre-show expectation grades were coming into Crown Jewel. Now, I meant to post our pre-show poll Friday. I wound up not doing it until just before the show began, and I happened to wake up like just around 8 a.m. Eastern, so possible these results were slightly skewed by the first match, but regardless, 49% were in the A range, 40% B plus to B, 2% B minus to C plus, 9% C or lower. That averaged out to a 91.2 out of 100, an A-, so a 91. Chris Vanini on our Ultimate Preview, his pre-show expectation grade was a 92, also an A-. And the Silver King, my pre-show expectation grade was a 93, also an A-. So for the first time in a long time, we all have the same letter grade, but one digit apart from each other. The expectations similar, not exactly the same. From a match booking and show construction standpoint, Crown Jewel was pretty flawless. No, that does not mean it gets an A+, but if you listen back to our Ultimate Preview, every match finished exactly as we said it needed to, both in terms of the winners and the methodology getting to those wins. The show was also built perfectly. It was neither front-loaded nor back-loaded. Really, like I said, my only issue was the length of the women's match. But even in that match, they wrestled incredibly well, and Vicaire won, which was necessary. When you look at Crown Jewel as a whole, where do you find the flaws? That match could have been longer. Reigns and Reed could have been better. Sure. It told the story, though, and it was incredibly exciting. The other 3 matches were different levels of perfect for what they needed to be. This was one of WWE's best premium live events of 2025, a far cry from the shit that we got at WrestlePalooza. And it felt like WWE put its foot back on the gas coming out of that disappointment in Indianapolis, saying we're going full throttle through the end of the year. In fact, let me go so far as to say this. With the immense talent that WWE has up and down its roster and the business decision it keeps making to only put 5 matches per card, this should be the level at which WWE delivers for every single main roster PLE. I do not see this, by the way, as a response to WrestlePalooza. I see that out there. Like, WWE tried harder to make this show better because that one got dragged. No, that's bullshit. But what it did do was highlight why that was such a disappointment, even if we knew it was thrown together with attempted positioning more for a general audience as opposed to those that watch the product weekly. This was an A show, one that exceeded even my high A- expectations on the Ultimate Preview. I'm wavering back and forth between a 94 and a 95, but a 95 just seems right to me because in addition to the show being great and the matches mostly banging, the booking was completely on point. Reed over Reigns, it kind of made it a 95 instead of a 94. And you know what? I'm now realizing that Cody and Roman lost on the same show, probably for the first time ever. If you had thrown in the Damian Priest, Aleister Black last man standing from SmackDown, you're talking about the WWE PLE of the year. As it stands, I believe it's still going to get nominated for PLE Pay-Per-View of the Year in the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka the Meaties, along with Evolution, maybe Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, if I'm remembering correctly, a couple of those early 2025 AEW shows as well. This is probably going to get nominated. So this was fantastic. It completely delivered. I did not mind at the end waking up early to watch it. And I'm actually really excited to watch it a second time before we do our second look Tuesday on the WWE show. Now, that's the Silver King's grade. The question is whether all of you are getting overheads. Agreed. Now, as I give these numbers to you, technically there are 27 minutes left in the poll, so it's possible some of this does shift, but we're at 61% A plus to A, 31% A- to B plus, 4% B to B minus, and 4% C plus or lower, which frankly, I don't even know how it's possible to grade this C plus or lower. Regardless, that averages out to a 95.42 out of 100, rounding down, of course, to a 95. So an A from you, matching the Silver King's grade. We're going to have to see what vintage Chris Vanini thinks. We'll hear from him Tuesday on the WWE Crown Jewel second look, also breaking down the entire week in WWE. And as a little bit of a tease for that show, SmackDown on Friday. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was the best SmackDown of the year. It was definitely in the upper tier SmackDowns of the year. And I gotta say, it's definitely the best in SummerSlam. And one of the best, at least, since WrestleMania. It was such a far cry from the dog shit that we've gotten on that program over the last few months. It was relatively stunning. And the main event with Aleister Black and Damian Priest was fantastic. Make sure you watch SmackDown. If you're someone who really listens to the show and you're like, well, I'm going to hear what Silver King and Vintage have to say, and then I'll go back and watch the week in WWE and see some of the best things. Don't waste time. Go watch that final match, the last man standing, to conclude SmackDown. And you know it's great because the Silver King hates last man standing matches. But that was awesome. And like I said a moment ago, if that had been included on this show, we're talking about a really special 6-match card. Alas, they put it on SmackDown. They did want to sell tickets to that show. They needed to. And Crown Jewel was excellent in its own right. So folks, yeah, that wraps up your WWE Crown Jewel instant analysis. There's still a ton for us to talk about this week in WWE, which we will do on Tuesday. And then, of course, on Thursday, we will talk all things NXT and AEW. If you're a first-time listener, you found us because you wanted results and a review for WWE Crown Jewel. Again, this is normally a 2-person operation, so we're bouncing back and forth against each other, and the show does operate a little bit differently. We also do get to crack open a cold one, and usually the Silver King, I don't personally think I have a good voice no matter what, but I usually sound better than I do all nasally right now because I am getting over an illness. I appreciate all of our long-term listeners and people who join the show every single week, multiple times a week, putting up with my voice and our sound quality over the last 3 weeks. We should be back completely normal. Silver King feeling 100%. Fingers crossed. This coming Tuesday when we do get to that WWE episode. On the way out, let's take care of some business. First, a reminder that this show
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. We're a free show, as you just heard. We're an ad-free show. We would greatly appreciate your financial support. Lastly, don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, and highlights, all that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show. As you just heard, you get to vote in pre- and post-show polls surrounding premium live events, and we do factor your analysis into our analysis. And of course, we'll factor your comments into our second look episode on YouTube. When you subscribe over there, you get full-length audio episodes and full-length video interviews across the board everywhere at Getting Overcast. Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. A full college football Saturday ahead, so it is officially time for the Silver King to sign off and leave you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.